but we have to deliver our best services at a price that's going to be reasonable for you.
Yes.
Unless you got FU money. You want me to be there 16 hours, baby? I'll be there. No problem.
Venue, why is it so important to actually go to that venue as opposed to just shopping around and asking for the best price? Why is it that?
Because you see everything. You see everything. And like I said, when you walk in, you'll get that feeling. And you
feeling.
can when you walk into the room, you could visualize. So me and Nick and Dean will constantly like send each other things, like tag each other on Instagram when we see new things. Like, oh, maybe we should try this. Maybe we should try this. And one of them was, all right, let's make them crazy. Like, you know?
Yeah, we would need a lawyer on here.
Oh,
for that.
Folks, this is our last podcast. Thank you for being such friends.
Thanks for listening.
No, but I do.
Like, they feel like they're being sold a car when the venue says, "Oh, come to the venue. You have to come to the venue," and they're like, "No, I don't want to go to the." You've heard that a lot.
That's the one thing that we say. That's actually the one thing we always bring up. We're not car salesmen. That's like literally something that we always say. We're not car salesmen.
So, John, we are with Victoria Collia-Bowman,
There you go.
Senior Events Coordinator at the Gramercy. Thank you so much for coming here today.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
So out of pure biasness, I've been wanting to have you come on here for a while because I think you know I'm already biased because I got married at the Gramercy in 2021.
Yes.
I've been working with you and Dean for many, many years. Your husband is secretly my lover. He just doesn't. He can't tell you that in person. But no, this is awesome. We wanted to have you in here because congratulations, you're also the first female on the Mixed Conversations podcast. So bravo to you. Yeah, yay for you. So the reason why I wanted to have you on, Vicky, is because like a lot of the times when people start shopping for venues, I believe that they have an uneducated understanding of what the process entails. Certain things that they probably need to know. And I thought you'd be the perfect person to start this off with because our dynamic is like, I don't like staged conversations. I'd rather you just tell me how it is.
Okay.
So I guess we'll start with basically your point of view of what it's like working for a venue. Like, what's your day-to-day operations like? You know, who do you meet with? Like, what's the clientele like? Tell people about what you do.
It is stressful. It is very, very stressful.
Okay.
For me, I not only meet with all the clients, I do all the bookings. Well, myself and Dean do all the bookings. I do all the scheduling. I do ordering. I deal with all of the staff. So I do a lot. So it is very stressful, but I love it. So
yeah. How did you get into this actually? Because I've never asked you that personally.
Okay. I actually went to school for fashion design and merchandising. So that's what I had my degree in.
Right up the same alley as what you do.
Yeah,
Perfect.
exactly. Yeah. When I was in school, I was working at Bed Bath & Beyond, and I was the manager there. And one day, I just realized I don't want to be in retail anymore. But when I graduated, the fashion industry was extremely intimidating, and I got really scared.
Okay.
I was very, very shy back then. So I left retail, had no idea what I wanted to do. I was partying at Deco, so I knew everybody there. And Lisa and Susan, who worked at Deco, they were like, why don't you just help us in the office until you figure out what you want to do? And I was like, okay. So I started just a few days a week as I'm trying to figure out what I want to do. And the week after that, we actually had a party at Deco. And Susan asked me to help her with it. And I helped her. That Monday, Dimitri looks at me and goes, did you like that? I was like, yeah, it was a lot of fun. He was like, all right, you're starting in Gramercy next week. That's literally how I got into it.
Okay.
No training, nothing, got thrown into the wolves.
So obviously there was some natural talent.
She has the it factor.
Yeah, so clear. And by the way, I don't believe you were shy. For as long as I've known you.
I was very shy.
Just because we're on camera doesn't mean you have to. So what's like, I know predominantly you guys handle weddings, yeah? That's like.
I would say 90% of our business is weddings, yeah.
Yeah. So are you seeing like trends in regards to like questions or things that like brides and grooms are coming in asking? Like, is there information they're asking that you're like, how did you know to ask that or something along those lines?
The one trend that a lot of our brides are asking about that I absolutely hate right now is the champagne tower.
Okay.
Because they see it on Pinterest or social media, on TikTok, and they want to do it.
Okay.
It's terrible. Okay. First off, it's annoying to set up. It makes me nervous. We don't have the right setup for it. So we'll do a small one, like a 3-tier one, just for them to take a picture with. But that's it.
Okay.
They want it running the entire.
Yeah.
No, we're not doing that.
Yeah. You think it's primarily? Do you think it's primarily because they're seeing the trend, like they just want it for
Yeah,
photos?
they'll see a picture and then they'll want to do it. But one thing that me and
Yeah.
Dean always say is what brides see on Pinterest and TikTok, it's not real. A lot of them are not realistic. Like, yes, it looks great, but it's not realistic for your wedding.
Yeah.
And that's what they don't understand.
Can
So
you-
that's what we
can-
try to explain things to
Can you
them.
expand on that? So when you say it's not realistic.
I'm trying to think of a good one.
Yeah.
Let me think of a good one. And
Well,
I'll
you
get
can
back.
you can even use the champagne glass example. Like if I come to you and say, oh yeah, I want to do this whole thing, do you need to? Sorry, this may sound like a crazy question because I'm like, do you need to like bring someone out onto like on site to be like, okay, yeah, this is the right way to do it because it could go wrong. Like,
Exactly. That's
you
why we
need-
hate doing it. We don't do
Okay,
it.
got it.
We
so
tell them
they
no.
probably have someone just like who like specializes in that.
Well, I can only imagine the mess it creates, considering the fact that you're literally now. Correct me if I'm wrong, because we haven't had to execute this ourselves.
Correct.
But the idea is they pop a champagne bottle, a relatively big one, I assume, and then they just pour it from the top until it overflows and trickles down.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the round champagne flutes.
Yes.
They're not, how do I say in a nice way, like, not good at capturing things, like capturing
Yeah.
liquids. So I would assume that the mess it causes is probably even worse than the actual shot.
Yeah, that's how we cap it at. Like, we'll do 3 tiers for them just to take a picture with.
Got it.
But it's not something you could be having your entire event.
Yeah.
But then, okay, so let me get this out of the way. I've said this many times in this podcast, is that trends actually can ruin more weddings than it actually helps.
Yeah.
Correct.
Because I think,
like
number
mannequin
one...
challenge. Sorry.
Okay, well, no, it's fine.
I always say less is more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the less is more concept, but I think the problem most brides have is that when they think less is more, it's like FOMO. They feel like they're going to miss out on the one day to do something that is going to separate their wedding from somebody else's.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that Pinterest, now TikTok, what used to be heavy on Instagram, those things influence a lot of trends that, quite frankly, either died out within the year that they saw the trend. Like, perfect example, can dudes, for the love of God, stop dressing in a dress to surprise the groom?
Oh yeah.
So, like, I remember when I first saw that, and I'm like, that's funny.
Yeah.
But now I see it, and I'm like,
It's yeah.
It's like-
it's yeah.
am I wrong?
I think
No, I don't
people
think so.
I think people they go to a lot of weddings. I think even we use this as a point to make to our couples, like, okay, yeah, we're gonna show up differently to your party. We're gonna make it different. So that word different, unique is so ingrained in their minds when they're looking at a venue and looking what the venue has to offer, the amenities and the DJ. What can you do differently? They think they have to reinvent the wheel because and people forget that creativity is not reinventing the wheel. It's just taking, it's a culmination of little ideas and putting it together. And I think that the creativity aspect it can do more harm than good because they're trying so hard to show up differently. And, we know best what works. We know that like keeping it less is more is perfect. We know the secret ingredient to a great wedding is not that crazy cool champagne tower. It's great for the TikTok reel, but in terms of the enjoyment of your wedding, what's most important is just the energy.
Right. I was going to say, to what extent?
To what extent?
Then they become DIYers.
Correct. And that's what I think you're trying to get. I think what you're alluding to, that these brides, because of the information they're receiving, they're like, can we try this? Can we try that? Can we try that? Because they're so focused on trying to show their friends and family, like, look how different my wedding was. Because it's not like the same wedding you've been to every time, which I love the gesture. I love the mindset they have. But like, it's a lot. And you might as well DIY it because I feel that that's why I asked you, if you're going to do that champagne thing, maybe hiring a person who actually understands how to really do it well. I feel like that's a skill to acquire, and you have to hire someone to do that. It's like when someone asks, I don't know, maybe it's crazy to say.
No, it's not crazy.
But like with our entertainment company, when a couple or a client comes to me and she says, hey, I'm looking for something like this. Well, I ask around, hey, do you know anybody who can provide this service? Because we can't provide it in-house. Yeah. And that's the extent. That's the way you have to attack it, in my opinion, I feel.
You're not wrong. My actual question for the champagne thing is, when are they approaching you about that? Are they talking to you like at the tasting? Are they doing it at...
It could be. I had a couple literally when they brought their stuff into me, bring these glasses and be like, oh, you want to do a champagne tower?
Like the day before the party
Yeah.
you're talking about?
And I'm just like,
Oh.
what? I'm like, and I'm like, we can't do this.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
it's
where's
not-
the tarp?
It's dangerous. We don't have the right, like, the plate underneath has to, we don't have the right equipment for it.
Nope.
So that's why we do maybe 3 tiers. That's it. Do 1 picture, call it a day. So
What-
you get your picture, but that's it.
They have
Go ahead.
They have unreal.
You go. Shut up. Go.
They have unrealistic expectations. Let's call it
Yeah.
what it is. And I think that's not their fault. They just believe that the venue can just produce magic. Oh yeah, we can pull that out of our hat or that
and
our butt.
I love my couples, and I
Correct,
want to give that to them
correct.
to an extent.
You got to be
know?
realistic.
Yeah.
You know what, the last thing you want to do is sell them on something that's going to make them unhappy.
Well, I always say the venues also have a very unique responsibility as opposed to all the other vendors.
Yep.
Because you're not just responsible for the bride and groom, you're responsible for the amount of guests that are attending.
Yeah.
And another thought that a lot of people, vendors included, don't think about is that they're also responsible to an extent for the vendors and how well the vendors work
Yes.
and how they match up on a timeline, working with your kitchen, working with your staff. And I'll go out on a limb and say, I have never flown my flag for a lot of venues. I haven't, primarily because.
That's true.
Well, I gotta,
That's true.
this is where I think a lot of people don't know about our industry is we all work together, but it doesn't mean we always like working together. And I think there's a lot of vendors and a lot of venues that hold resentment towards certain other vendors because like a DJ might say, oh, this venue sucks because they do this or they do that. And the venue will be like, no, I'm never having those people again. Because people they sent left a effing mess.
Yep. Yeah.
And I got to clean up their garbage. They're drinking on the job. They're doing all the, like, photographers. Like,
Yep.
the photographers left this over here. It's
Yep.
falling on somebody. Like, you guys get the grunt of all the vendors. So I talk about that and I say that because I really want venues to speak out, or the people who work for venues to speak out on what the experience is like, not only working with clients but also working with other vendors, right? Because believe it or not, the Gramercy doesn't really push too many vendors. Like,
No. We have some recommended,
Yeah.
and they're the ones that are usually they're the most. But we want our couples to be comfortable with who they're choosing.
Right.
We don't want to force them to choose somebody.
Right.
We want them to be able to bring in whoever they want. We recommend some to them, but they could bring in whoever.
yeah, and they should. Is there?
And we don't charge either, because some venues do charge. They'll have a recommended list, and if you don't choose one of their recommended vendors, they'll charge you to bring in another vendor. So we do not do that because we
Okay.
want you to be comfortable with who you're bringing in.
Right. Now, see, you open up a can of worms because here's the thing. We have spoken about this openly, both to clients and even on this podcast. And I want to hear your point of view is why do you think some venues do that? Now, we're not naming anybody, but
Because
if
they
you
get
had to
money off of
speculate-
it.
There we go.
That's simple.
Yeah, that's simple. So contractually, I don't even think I'm not a lawyer, clearly. I have a beard and I look like a goon. But
That's true.
But I don't know if that's legal per se, because even though it's their grounds, I don't think they have the right to dictate what professional service can be on the grounds because they're subcontracted by the client. You understand? It's not the venue hiring them; it's the client subcontracting somebody else in that venue.
Okay. Fair point. I think you have a point there.
It's a big one. It's a big one.
Yeah, we would need a lawyer on here.
Oh,
for that.
folks, this is our last podcast. Thank you for being such friends.
Thanks for listening.
No, but I do genuinely question that thought process because that's one of the biggest stifles that I have with venues. We understand it's your place. We respect your place. True professionals respect your place. But at the same time, like, some of them beat their chest a lot. And I feel like that they try to dictate the outcome for the bride and groom when their first job is to service the bride and groom, if that makes sense.
I get that.
And you guys, I went to you guys for my wedding because obviously I knew how you guys operated. And obviously I being a vendor, I've been there and I was like, okay, I know the food's good. I know the staff. I know what I'm walking into. And the service is impeccable. But I also went to you guys because you gave us that freedom to work alongside you versus almost like a, for lack of a better term, dictatorship of like, okay, if you don't do this, we don't want you here.
Yes.
And we've run into that too. What's your process of working with vendors? Like, I mean, I know obviously, but tell us about what it's like working with other vendors, how you work with them, what do you tell brides in that regard?
Well, one thing, whenever I meet with my couples, that's the first question I ask them is if they've chosen their vendors yet. And when they have, I love to know who they're choosing, so I know who I'm working with day of. And day of, the one thing I don't like is when planners try to make a timeline. Because it never works out that way.
Right.
Why?
And you have to understand, because not everything is going to go as planned. Timelines never go as planned, especially when there's a ceremony on site.
Yep.
I like to wait until day of. Like I'll give, if couples ask me, I can give like an estimated timeline. I like to wait until day of, and then that's when I like to talk to the vendors. I'll talk to the photographers, and I'll talk to the DJs, so we're all on the same page. Because
Right.
like we all know, nothing goes as planned.
Right. Well, that's another thing too is we've spoken about working with event planners. Where, if you already know, we are very good with working with our own timeline, and we coordinate with you guys. From my understanding in the history of working with most venues, majority of the timing is also based around the kitchen, because the kitchen
Yes.
has to be the ones that are prepping the food for it to be hot. Otherwise, it goes dry. Other things fall in a case scenario. Is it right to assume that? Or?
Yeah, I can't give you a dinner time until I get all of my orders in.
Right.
So that's where we have to communicate.
So
Like,
that's why
all
no
right,
matter-
I need to
okay.
get my orders. Can you have everybody sit down? So, and then once I do that, then I can get you a dinner time, and then we can kind of work around that.
Right. And that's where we understand that, which is why whenever we build our timelines, we say these are approximate timelines that we believe, due to chronological orders, should be enough time for the venue to be ready to go. But understand that if we do have to move, we move things along, which is why we always work so well together, because I'm like, hey, what time are we thinking for dinner? You're like, probably around 8:15. Let me see my orders. I'm like, look, I have 8:20. I was like, this is
Yeah.
this is
That is why
we
I
work
also
well.
love to ask. I love to talk to you about how many speeches and how many
Right.
dances they're having. Because if you're having, there's some weddings that they'll have like 6 speeches. That's taking up so much time, where I'm like, I still have to go out with my bread and my salad, all that. So I'm like, all right, why don't we? And that's where you have to switch. You have to jump on it and switch things around. So it's like, okay, how about we put this out first? Then you do your speeches, and whenever you're done, get them dancing. So my stuff is done.
It's so easy for us, like the DJs, like for us to switch things around, but for you guys, it's very
Oh, no.
it's very hard to, because of your food, like food
Yeah.
distribution. You can't let it get cold and things like that. I'm like, I think about that, but that's like the one thing. That's why I try to make sure I'm prepared first, so I send it over to the venue. But a lot of times I get emails from venues saying that's approximate. Yeah, we can't guarantee right now because there are a lot of variables
Yes.
that we can only consider on the day of the event.
Yeah.
Which is also kind of like, I guess, the fun part about our job too, because that's what keeps us on our toes, and you have to be
Absolutely.
responsive with that. But yeah, it's definitely a learning curve when it comes to that.
Let's talk about also, you guys are one event at a time.
One event at a time, one event per day.
Yeah, which is a big one.
Yes,
And-
we can do 2 per day, and we choose not to, because it's a lot, and we don't want, if we do a morning event, then it's like we feel like we're rushing them out, and then we're not giving the night event enough time to come in. We want to let them get settled, take pictures, and everything's not 100%, and that's what we want. We want the venue to be 100% for our couples. You're spending all of this money for the best day of your life. We want to make sure you get that.
Yeah.
So that's why we choose not to.
That's another thing I'll bring up is the advantage of having a one event, one day venue, specifically for the pre-work, meaning photographers coming early, videographers coming early, the bridal party coming early, all of those things. Talk about what happens prior to the actual ceremony or reception that brides and grooms should consider when they're looking for venues.
One thing, I mean, for us, which does suck a little bit for us, is our bridal suite. So our bridal suite isn't really equipped like other venues. So unfortunately, like our couples can't do like their hair and makeup at our venue, but we do allow them to like get dressed and do touch-ups and all of that, and they can do all their pictures. So we do allow them 3 to 4 hours before the event time starts. So that's the one thing that does suck, but we try our best to do whatever we can for them within those 3 to 4 hours. Within that time, I personally suggest that they don't drink too much, because I've had situations where like the groomsmen couldn't even walk down the aisle.
Yeah. Yeah. We've had those stories. I remember one where they had to keep throwing coffee at the groom because he stumbled out of the bus. and they had about 2.5 hours prior to the ceremony.
Yeah.
So they're like, he doesn't drink anything but coffee. And it was like black espresso, no, like really not even sugar. It was just, you're talking, you know, Mach 5, just get him sober. And unfortunately, we talk about this on the podcast too. Shots do not do prior to your wedding.
I agree.
Don't do shots.
I agree.
I am a bourbon drinker. Okay. I don't really like beer. I'm not a big claw guy or what have you. If you're going to drink liquor, it has to be something you sip on. And you shouldn't have more than 2 prior to the ceremony, in my opinion, even if it's a long day. Why? Flushes your face, gets you bloated, makes your cheeks, you know, pink and your eyes dilated. But more importantly, if you start slurring your vows, not a good start to your marriage, if I may say. But I'm glad you brought that up too. What are certain expectations that brides are coming with when they are talking about, like, I guess pre-work, like photography specifically? Like, are they coming like because they want to do group shots? Are they talking about that with you when they're booking the venue? Like,
So I don't
stuff
really
like that?
talk about the different shots. It's more of first look. So obviously, when they're doing the ceremony on site, I would say 90 to 95% are doing a first look, because when you're doing the ceremony on site, it doesn't give you time for pictures, or else you're taking up your entire cocktail hour, which
Right.
most couples don't want to do. So they do talk to me about first look and timing of first look and what where they should do it. And that's where I tell them that's when I ask them what photographers are using. Because if it's a photographer that we recommend, they've been here multiple times, so they know the best spots at the venue, whether it be inside or outside, to do the first look.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
How long have you been at the Gramercy again for?
Since 2013.
Okay. So from 2013 till now, have you seen an absence or a decline in, I don't know, a formality, a trend, or a rise in certain types of requests? I know we talked about the champagne thing, but anything a bit more like long term, like where you've seen, wow, 2013, 2014, we used to constantly get people saying, yes, we want to do that. And now I'm not really getting those requests anymore. Like, is there anything you've seen or an absence of or a rise of? We can always come back to that.
That's a good question.
But the reason why, because we have some stuff like that where, like, you know, these things we're used to, like, oh yeah, we're so used to, like, accustomed to selling that. I'm like, I don't really hear much about that. One thing in particular that I could think of is TV screens.
Yeah,
like, I think TV
monograms.
screens
You know what? I
monograms are
have
huge.
noticed that some couples are not doing the screens as much as they used to.
Or the montage presentation
Yeah.
at weddings. Like,
Yeah.
I never do that. It's only at sweet 16s,
Yeah.
mitzvahs, other life celebrations. But at weddings, my aunt, she got married, and I was a baby, and I remember watching, like, the montage, and I think even the same day edit. But the montage of, like, first they'd show my aunt, and then they'd show my uncle, and then they bring the pictures together. I'm like, oh wow, that was so sweet. I don't see that anymore at weddings.
Or back in the day when they used to have the video camera go around to every table.
Hi, we like to, and like people are half just hammered, and they're like, listen, we're really happy. Yeah.
No, I can't. So actually, it's funny you bring that up, because actually I've had a couple. So we started working with videographers and we're offering it in-house, and that's actually one of the questions I get. Oh yeah, do they do like testimonials with the groups? I was like, why? It's like, why to make fun of Aunt Gracie, like
Right.
at Thanksgiving?
This
Like,
is
why?
1990s. I know.
Right, like
Yeah.
why? And I'm like, well, what does it benefit you? So you know what they started doing?
I know what you're gonna say.
The video testimonial photo booths.
Or the audio guest book, or the
Or the
audio
guest
phone.
The phone is a big
The
thing.
phone is a big thing.
It's only 3 months in, but this year I haven't really had many. Last year it was really big. Last year the phone was very, very big.
Yeah.
Anything you're seeing that's like, oh man, I'm getting a lot of this stuff, like a lot of requests.
Everything's in phases.
Yeah.
Everything is in phases.
It's hard to almost keep track of
Yeah.
it, because there's stuff. I think social media really, it's almost like fast fashion. There's new clothes coming in to the point where you can't even catch up with what the trend is. You're just
Exactly.
taking stuff. You're like, yeah, I think we would try to do that. And
Right now, table shots. That's a big one.
table shots.
Table shot. So the photographer will go to every table and like they try to
Oh,
make a game out of it. It's like,
yeah,
all right, let's see how
yeah,
fast we
yeah.
can
We
do
do that, yeah.
That's something right now that's going on.
Yeah.
So you're still
Right.
getting your picture with the entire table.
Yeah.
And I'm slightly rolling my eyes because we do that, and I because I only do that game primarily because I'm like they're adamant about doing it, and like you mentioned earlier, timing is everything of the day of your wedding. Because let's say you offer them 2.5 hours prior to the start of the ceremony. That gives them what, a total of 8.5 hours at the venue, right? At the Gramercy. So you're talking what, from 3 o'clock to 11, 3 o'clock to 11:30,
Yep.
12 o'clock, right? That goes by so incredibly fast.
Fast.
When you look at the order of operations of what's to happen in chronological order, from the time that they arrive to the time the bride has to get dressed, to the time that they actually do the first look, to the time they have to do all the family shots with the bridal party, wedding party, to getting ready for the ceremony, hiding everybody so people could take their seats, prepping the wedding party to get ready for the ceremony, doing the ceremony, finishing the ceremony, getting them upstairs to their bridal suite so they can have cocktail hour, which is fantastic, by the way. I would know personally because I was up there. Then cocktail hour, the last 30 minutes, you go downstairs, everybody goes nuts, and then finally the reception, and then all of a sudden,
It's over.
holy crap, I'm drinking out of this gigantic smoothie ice cream thing that they present, which is awesome.
Okay, now we have to put a
Milkshake?
picture up.
The milkshake.
So on the pod, now when we
I'll
edit
figure,
this, we
yeah.
have to put the picture up.
So
I have some I can send you if you need.
Please.
So that was the only stint my wife was mad at for us.
That you didn't do it?
No, we did it. The problem
Okay,
was
what's she complaining about?
Okay, you had to leave early for my wedding, but my wedding was, you weren't even with the company yet.
No.
My wedding was a banger.
Yeah.
It was a banger, people. Okay, you want to see a wedding? You can watch my video.
Merriam
Do it-
Webster
do it
defines
right.
banger as.
No, but what problem was is that Aldo, being a guest, didn't officially announce the dessert outside.
Okay.
Our Venetian hour, if you will.
Got it.
And their Venetian hour is on crack. It's
I know.
It's crazy.
We know. We know.
And then we got our milkshake on our table, and the milkshake, I kid you not, is about this big. And it's towered with everything with 2 straws.
I'm still thinking about it.
Jess and I got maybe
Still not
a
over it.
fifth of it, and I'm like, no, we can't do this. It was crazy. But Jess was like, I didn't even know it was outside. We were just like partying so much. And then I'm like, yeah, well, that's on Aldo. Sorry, Al. No, but we were having too much fun.
That's your
I'll go-
signature. Go.
the-
Sorry, I
the
didn't mean to cut you
milkshake?
off. That's your signature.
Oh,
Where
yeah.
did that? How did that come about? What did you guys think about? Like,
Actually, I believe it was Nick the chef that started. And he actually started it for our wedding, but it wasn't as crazy as they are now. So for our wedding, they brought them out in champagne glasses,
Okay.
and it was just whipped cream. It was just like the frosty in the champagne glass with the whipped cream, a straw, and
Light
maybe,
work.
maybe sprinkles on top. That's it. So it was just like the first batch
Yeah,
that went
the
out.
pioneer.
And then after that, like we
just
just
grew.
So me, Nick, and Dean will constantly like send each other things, like in tag each other on Instagram when we see new things, like, oh, maybe we should try this, maybe we should try this. And one of them was, all right, let's make them crazy. Like, let's do the cereal, the sprinkles, and make them fun. Because we always say, like, weddings should be fun. Okay.
Yeah.
When couples come to me with, this is totally off track, but when couples come to me and we talk about like the cocktail hour food and stuff like that, and they want to do like all this serious food, and I'm like,
yeah.
make it fun.
Yeah.
And after they make it fun, they're like, you're right.
So how could you make, when you say it's serious food, like how can you make that fun? What do you suggest? You're
That's
like,
one thing where they'll go on Pinterest again and like they'll see, oh, well, I want to do this and I want to do this. And I'm very, very, very honest with my couples. One, I don't want them spending money where they don't need to.
Okay.
And two, I'm going to be honest and tell them nobody cares about that.
okay.
Like, don't do that, do more of this. And so when they question, like on one of our enhancements is the street vendors with the hot dog cart, some people question it, they're like, oh, well, it's not really good for a wedding, but whenever we do it, people go crazy
There's
for
lines
it.
outside. Yeah.
Yeah, because people don't care at the end of the night. They're like, that's when people
Yeah,
just been
like
they're
people
sweating.
like the fun food, especially
Yeah.
during cocktail hour. Cocktail and dessert are the two main things that everybody loves at a wedding.
Okay.
And you want them to be fun. You want like tacos. You want finger things. And you want, yeah.
Yep.
I like her.
We
She's
call
good.
them the drunken munchies. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, what's your take on an ice sculpture?
One, during cocktail hour, nobody cares.
Okay.
Nobody
That's
cares.
all I need to know.
If you are going to do it, do a luge and make it fun.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
You want to do it.
Okay,
You want to
okay.
make a luge.
Shot
You want
luge,
it to be
yeah.
fun.
I like that.
Have
I
a
like that.
bartender behind there.
Okay.
That's it. Like,
A
I'm a
responsible
partier.
bartender.
Yes. I'm a partier, so anything
With
to make it fun.
Yeah.
That's what you want.
Yeah.
You want it to be fun, and that's what people are going to remember.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to remember
The ice sculpture.
Nobody's going to remember your centerpiece.
Yeah.
No, people are going to remember the food, the entertainment, the bar.
Yeah.
Those are things that
Yeah.
people take from your wedding.
Yeah. I only will say is the only time that doesn't apply, meaning they won't remember those things, is when you go over the top. Like you have to legitimately.
What do you mean?
Okay, so if you do a hanging centerpiece from the ceiling, and let's say it's a whole flower bouquet that literally goes around each table.
Yeah, that's
something that they've actually
something
never
Never
seen
seen before.
Right.
Yes.
So where basically the reason why I bring that up is because this whole idea of the podcast is really to more educate and also entertain a lot of people who are getting married, because how many times do we get like I said in the very beginning of the podcast, like it's misinformation that they think is important when it's not important. So if you're going to do something to make people like be wowed, it has to be over the top.
Yes.
And if you're not willing to go over the top, don't do it. Don't complicate the scenario.
Yes.
And if you are going to go over the top, make sure you have somebody who knows how to do it, walking you down, for lack of a better term, walking you down the aisle to get to that result. Because otherwise, DIYing anything like that always
never works.
Always fails. And it's not a pretty failure. It's not even like, it was cute, we almost had it. No, it's shit, why did I try doing that?
Yes.
It's a bad idea.
Yes.
Right? It is, but I've seen nightmare scenarios where I've had people have they try to do their own placement card thing, mirror wall. They go, oh, my cousin does it. I was like,
Okay.
oh, your cousin does it. That's great.
What does your cousin do from 9 to 5?
Right,
Something completely different. Yeah, they do on the side.
It's like when their cousin's a DJ.
Yeah. Oh, we know. My friend. That
you're poking
right
the
here.
bear. You're poking the bear.
Stab.
And well, okay. So I guess where I'm leading with this is like, in your position, what advice really do you want to give to brides in regards to looking for venues? What should they look for? What should they ask for? How do they notice the difference? Like, from your point of view, like, how can you help them?
It starts off with when you first walk in. When you first walk in, when you get that feeling. It's the same feeling a girl gets when she tries on her wedding dress. I tried on, I think it was 6 different dresses, and I ended up with a dress that I didn't even want to try on. Wow. But as soon as I put it on, I was like, this is it. You get that feeling as soon as you walk in, and and then it's also who you're meeting with. Because if you vibe with that person, you have that connection, this is the person I feel comfortable with putting the best day of my life
in their hands. Yeah, in their hands. And what do you guys like? What's the walkthrough with the Gramercy? So they call in, they do a site survey. Like, how does it work?
So whenever they arrive, it's usually with me and Dean. We'll start off. I love, just talking the general information. Like, when are you thinking of getting married? How many people? Will you be doing ceremony on site? I love asking where they're from. Because I'm from Staten Island, so when they are from Staten Island, I love my Staten Island couples.
Staten Island in the house.
So and let me tell you, Staten Islanders put on good weddings.
Oh,
okay?
they
party.
Yeah,
okay,
they're the.
So that I love asking where they're from also, because then also it gives me an idea of where their guests are coming from. Will they need a hotel? So I could push things like that for them.
Right.
Okay.
So we start off doing the general around the venue, and then when we go upstairs, we sit down, and then I love being able to joke with them.
Yeah.
If you could joke with them, especially with parents.
Great.
Yeah, when you get the mom, the
because
parents
you
on
want
the
to
side.
make them feel comfortable, because that's what they want. Because these are people that you're going to be dealing with for the next year and a half to 2 years.
Finish,
So, and I'm with them from the beginning to the very end of the wedding when they walk out that building. Like, I don't leave until the wedding is completely over. So I'm with them the entire time. So I want them to be comfortable with me. And if they're not, that's completely fine. To each his own.
Yeah.
I have a question.
No offense to Dean, but I've had a couple say they didn't want to work with Dean and work with me instead. So.
Oh,
sorry, Dean.
Dean. Those are fighting words.
Very nice. Very nice.
Congratulations, Victoria's buying lunch for the next one.
My question is, I hear so many, sometimes couples think they're like, I've heard that like, they feel like they're being sold a car when the venue says, oh, come to the venue. You have to come to the venue. And they're like, no, I don't want to go to the, you've heard that a lot.
That's one thing that we say. That's actually the one thing we always bring up. We're not car salesmen. That's like literally something that we always say. We're not car salesmen.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to sell you a dream here. Everything we have is right here in this package. We're not sugarcoating it. We're not hiding anything. I'm very honest. You ask my opinion, I'm going to give you my opinion, especially when it comes to favors. Nobody cares about your favor.
But
they want food or alcohol. Nobody cares about your stemless wine glass.
Yeah.
But highlight the importance of why you want them at the venue. Because like when I go to car dealerships, they want you there because, you know, they can show you the car. Yeah, whatever. But like going to a venue, why is it so important to actually go to that venue as opposed to just shopping around and asking for the best price? Why is it that?
Because you see everything. You see everything. And like I said, when you walk in, you'll get that feeling. And you
feeling.
Can you walk into the room, you could visualize. So it's different from when you're seeing something online to when you're seeing it in person.
Right. Or
so
in our
You're
industry.
walking through the room in person. You're walking through the cocktail hour room. You're walking through the ballroom. You're walking through the bridal suite, through the outside area for the ceremony. You could actually visualize yourself getting married there.
Yeah. And also, so my story was I was supposed to get married in Jamaica, if you remember, and then that little thing called COVID happened. So obviously we had to call off the wedding, and I told my wife, I said, look, I'm going to give you the whole bridal experience. Go look at venues, go look at other vendors, photographers, whatever. I want you to have it because I don't want to take that away from her, knowing what I know. Because
he tells me I took that away from him.
John's over here, Victoria's
You
husband.
are not going to get your food tasting. She's no.
So, but John's like, I want the free food.
I just want a dinner. I just want dinner tonight. That's all I wanted.
I told Jess, I was like, listen, go do your thing. Obviously, no commitments until I see it, say yes, whatever. But in my head, I remember telling like Joey and you know, Aldo, and I was like, I'm going to take her to the Gramercy. I was like, it's going to happen, and it's most likely going to end up there. I was like, unless she completely overrides me with someplace that she falls in love with, which I had a feeling was not going to be the case. But she looked at Shadowbrook. She looked at all these other places, which at that point, I'm like, dude, you're talking like $500 a plate for Saturday, what have you. It's like not going to happen. So at the end of the day, I was like, okay, I'm going to take you to this place. I didn't even tell her it was the Gramercy. I was like, I'm going to take you to this place. I want you to meet with a buddy of mine. If you don't like it, we don't have to go there. I was like, but I have a very strong feeling you are. And I remember walking in, you first see the vase and you see everything in there and everything's beautifully white and black and you have everything. And Jess is like, oh, this is really nice. I was like, yeah, I know things. So, but I met with Dean, obviously because my history with Dean. And then she's like, oh, I really like him. I was like, okay. What do you think of ballroom? She goes, this is big. This is nice. Where's the bar? Oh,
That
it's a
sounds
big
like
bar. Jess. Yeah, it's my wife.
That
and
is
I'm
your
like,
wife.
So I was like, Jess,
Question.
is it a yes? She's like, I really like it. I was like, okay. She's like, okay. So that's what it is.
Yes.
But the reason why is
like
attesting to what you're saying is you have to go there
Yes.
to not just visualize it, you got to feel comfortable there. Comfortability is the number one thing I say with venues because it's not just about the people. You got to walk in and you got to feel kind of at home because you are going to spend a good amount of time there. You are spending on average 40 to 50% of your budget on the venue. That's your starting point. So it's a major investment. So you have to really, really be sold on the venue. I actually say that you guys are, like, I say the best kept secret in New Jersey because I don't think you guys get enough praise for what you guys actually do there. And I mean that genuinely. I don't mean that because you pay me, because you don't pay me. Although, you know, we could work something out. No, but it's serious. Like, I mean this wholeheartedly, that you guys and the way you work and the way you keep it in-house and the way Dean, his brother, and everybody else that works there, you guys really are a family and you keep
We're
it
a good
close-knit.
team.
Yeah,
We're
you
a
really
good team. Me, Dean, and Nico, we really put our heart and soul into it.
I felt it.
I'm the only one that's not family because they're obviously brothers, but they make me feel like family.
You're
And
adopted.
I treat the Gramercy as if it is my own because I do love what I do. I do, and I love my couples. Weddings end, and like I miss some of my brides. Because you're dealing with them for like 2 years.
I know, and then it's bye. You're like,
Yeah.
but we got to hang
But
out
some
though.
of them, like I still will talk to on like Instagram and stuff. So I do love that, and I get to see like they're having kids now. And it's like,
That is a sweet part.
it makes me happy.
Are there any things that you've seen other venues do that you're just like, well, we talked about the vendor thing, but is there anything else that you kind of shake your head at from other venues that you're like, that they shouldn't do that, or we don't do that for this reason? Is there anything else that you've seen or heard of, I should probably say?
The one thing that, I mean, it's not like a big thing, but the one thing that I hate because we don't do it, and I pre-setting salad.
Okay.
Yeah,
Prior.
I don't like when you walk into a room and it's sitting there already because I don't know how long it's been sitting there. Was there a fly that stopped on? I don't know. So I like the fact that we we serve our salad after the guests are seated.
Very
So I do
important.
like that.
Got it. How many servings do we do typically? 2, 3? Meaning, so you have a salad.
We do
Pasta, entree?
champagne, we do the bread, salad, intermezzo, and then
That's
the
it.
entree.
Right, intermezzo. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have another question.
Gotta cleanse that palate.
Yeah, you got to cleanse the palate. Another question.
Yeah.
So when like families come to me and they go, okay, like how do I filter out a good DJ versus a bad DJ, right? Because you know, if I look at price, oh, I'm gonna go for the DJ that's obviously cheaper because it's like buying a car. I'll just get the cheapest deal, whatever, right? That's how they see it. I'm like, no, it's not buying a car. Well, ask this DJ this question, like, does what's their planning system look like, right? How responsive is he gonna be? Does he do it full time? Like these are like green flags that I tell families that are not even booking me, just if they're friends and family of mine, like.
Right.
Make sure you're interviewing your DJs, your entertainers, making sure that they do certain things. What do you recommend brides and grooms too doing, filtering to filter out the venues that may not have that may not be all in on your wedding and they're a bit more like weekend warriors type of thing? What's the
vendors or venues?
Venues.
One big thing is the one at a time, one per day.
Okay, great.
That's a big thing because that's what I go by.
That's
also
huge.
what I hear couples talk about.
Okay.
That's a major thing is couples do like that it's exclusive to them.
Okay.
So they feel special. That's what you want them to do. They're paying all this money for this one day. You want it to be about them. You don't want their wedding going on and you're hearing speeches from the next room, or you're trying to give your speech and you're hearing music from the next room.
Yeah.
So that's that's one major thing that I hear them talk about.
Stand that.
Yeah. Two. Sorry, my phone's going off.
You're okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Potential spam.
Answer.
It's business. Anyway.
Let me think. Other places, I feel like they go too big on their menu and they give you too many options. I feel like you got to keep it simple. I feel like you keep it minimal, simple. You can switch stuff around, but you don't want to sit there and be like, okay, well, you have to pick, 6 from this, 2 from this, 3 from this, 4 from this. You want to keep
Overwhelming.
it simple for them. Wedding planning is stressful enough. You want to keep things as simple as possible for them.
Yeah.
So you feel like you're helping them, that they don't have to think too much over stupid things.
Yeah.
And that's what you want.
My biggest thing and I want to go back to the one day a wedding thing. I'm just gonna call it what it is because there's always that one time in the podcast where I'm like watching.
Yeah, he gets
If I'm like,
he looks at the camera. He's like,
I'm
I gotta
like,
talk to everybody
all
right now.
everybody.
This is it.
Well, I bring this up because I also have to be careful because talking about what we talked about is I'm a guest at your house, right? So I never want to step on the toes of venues because I do think venues, out of all the vendors that work weddings, have the most responsibility.
Yeah.
Like they really do. And if you think otherwise.
Yep.
I mean, you can make a debate for some things, but ultimately you guys are responsible for way more than we are.
Yeah.
With that said, some things that I don't like about venues is they omit certain things in the sales process. They omit certain truths about sales processes, especially the ones that are multiple day weddings.
Okay.
Because one being, and we've had this situation actually previously, or talking about it with an upcoming couple in June. They're getting nervous because they have a multi-wedding venue in Long Island, which are known to be wedding factories.
Okay.
And they're like, oh, we chose this venue because of the garden that's outside. For the photography, for us to have time to shoot outside. To find out that the previous wedding prior is going to interrupt their ability to be able to take shots there.
Okay.
Now, these are things that, quite frankly, a bride doesn't know to look for or to ask, right?
Yep.
Now, as event professionals, maybe I'm just naive or too goody two-shoe, but I believe that that's something that has to be spoken about. Because I'm like, if you're doing multiple weddings a day,
100%.
you need to explain, hey, you're only going to get X amount of time at this place. Now, if you have an argument to say you don't need that much time in that space, then you make it at the time of sale. I have a problem when they sign the contract and now they're locked in and now they're getting, oh, yeah, you only get like an hour and a half out there. Did you not know that? That's a problem to me. You know what I'm talking about?
Okay.
Right? You guys don't have that problem.
No.
Right. One thing that we've talked about is the only issue with you guys that you have is outdoor weddings, because it's only one room basically. So you have the main reception room.
Yeah.
You don't have a secondary room for
an indoor ceremony?
Correct.
No.
Right.
So then we have to do the ballroom, which
Right.
when we give the tours, we fully go over that. So like I said,
point
we don't like to hide anything. We
Correct.
like to put
Right.
everything out there because if you hide stuff, it makes you look bad.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
And I try to look at every situation, and I explain to them, okay, if you want an outdoor ceremony, then we go outside, we look at the outdoor space. I go, but if it does happen to rain that day, this is where we would have to do your ceremony. And I go into full detail, explain to them exactly how it will be. Plus, we also have an iPad, which we show them pictures of how indoor ceremonies are set up.
Right. And that's what I'm trying to. That's what I'm alluding to. Because you guys, obviously, you're the. I guess if you want to call it a hindrance, is that because you only have the ballroom, you have to flip the room in case of bad weather.
Yes.
But you don't hide that from
Correct.
Even Russian weddings. So Russian weddings, perfect example. They want to do their cocktail hour first, then they want to do their ceremony, then their reception.
And you can't
do
that.
And I'm very honest, guys. I can do this only if we have an outdoor ceremony.
Correct.
If it rains, I cannot do this for you.
Right.
If it rains, we have to do the normal ceremony first, then cocktail hour, then reception.
Right. And the reason why I respect that is because you know that could be a loss of a sale for you.
100%.
If that is not something they're willing to, quote unquote, risk.
100%.
Right.
Just like I know, I mean, some people don't want their indoor ceremony set up the way that we do. And I get that. Do I wish that we could build onto our building and do an indoor ceremony space? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But unfortunately,
You be transparent.
We cannot, and this is how we do it. Some people really want that look of an indoor ceremony space, so that's why they don't book with us, and I respect it. You know, I totally respect it.
That's the ethical standard that you guys hold yourselves to, because I think they're, unfortunately, because there's sometimes I consider this industry sometimes like the Wild West, because there's no overarching regulatory body that's saying you must be doing this. So it's kind of like based on your own moral principles of like, I need to tell you this. I think that's also just as like I am, because your relationship with that couple is more important than the profit and the money
100%.
and the influx.
Yeah.
And
100%.
you will come across an awkward moment when there's an issue and you omitted that fact, you know, and you don't want to. You want to avoid that because you're a people person. You love the brides and grooms that you work with.
100%.
You want to maintain that.
And that's why we've lost weddings over our bridal suite as well. Because some brides want to be able to be there all day, getting dressed in the morning, having the breakfast with their girls, drinking mimosas, doing that. And we can't give that to them.
But they'll appreciate your transparency.
Well, that's another thing too, is that I want to bring that up too, because what you just brought up is also one of the things that people have to understand, that in the pricing category of what you're doing, when you decide to do an all-day at a venue concept, the amount of staff that's required to do that is something that people don't truly understand.
Yeah, I don't understand this.
Okay, so put it this way. You cannot have the same staff do a 14-hour day at a venue. It's impossible.
I'm the only idiot that works 14 hours.
Yeah, but you're one person. And you're one person that, even though you oversee everything, you're not physically mandated to carry trays, to move chairs, to balance everything else, to follow the bride everywhere.
Nope.
Right? Now you're talking about a shift.
So
you're talking about it. Think about this.
I didn't know that.
How are you going to have chefs work, let's say on average, 4 days a week, doing 14-hour days? How?
I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, okay. Again, this is why we do the podcast.
Oh,
if anybody was to watch this and understand, you need to know why, because respectfully, we don't have the time to educate you all the time, but we have to deliver our best services at a price that's going to be reasonable for you.
Yes.
Unless you got FU money. You want me to be there 16 hours, baby. I'll be there. No problem. Let's talk. But I'm serious. Like that's where there are some venues that have the hotels built inside that spare no expense, do literally $40 million venues that are built in a matter of a year, and they cater to that clientele. Guess what? You're going to pay over $500 a plate. That's not uncommon.
Yeah.
But for everyday people who are getting married, who want to have a beautiful reception at a beautiful venue with immaculate services, there's still a budget for that. And I feel like you don't have to sacrifice quality just because you want more. And I'm like, more is not always more. It's what you have at the given time that matters. I think you guys do that really well.
Thank you.
Do you guys? But like, am I kind of hitting bases with you when I talk about this, or like, have you had this conversation with brides where they're like, "Oh, we're looking to do a 14-hour day"?
Yeah.
Do you have to explain this to them? Like,
I've explained that many times, and some see it, some don't.
What happens with the people who don't see it? Walk me through, usually, like, when they don't see it, what are their rebuttals, or like what do they bring up that doesn't justify what you're trying to explain?
So some couples will say, well, can't we just use the space? They want to come in early in the morning. Well, we don't need anything from you. Well, we'll bring in all of our own stuff, which I get, but it's never what it seems. I still need to have people here. I can't just have you
walk around aimlessly.
Yeah, I can't just have you be here. I still have to, supply you with plates and, glassware, and I still have to have somebody attending to you. I can't just open the building and be like, here you go.
Right. I mean, well, also, what are you planning on doing? If you're doing hair and makeup, you're going to need power for
electric. Yeah, I still got to turn everything on. If it's winter, I got to turn the heat on. If it's summer, I got to turn the AC on.
Okay.
And then what's going to happen when the bride wants a drink?
Exactly.
Is her bridesmaids going to do it? No. And if they bring their own champagne bottles, okay, where are the flutes? Who's going to clean up after that? Then what's going to happen if, like, you're midway through? Oh, this is, by the way, so and so. She's working your event, your bridal attendant, and they're like, "Oh, nice to meet you." She's already sloshed. Like that's another thing that happens.
And then even if they bring their own food in, I'm not going to leave the room a disaster. Somebody still has to go in and clean up after them.
Right. These are things that I think have to be.
Got it.
Kind of understood, but I don't want to use understood. It's got to be almost expected at this point.
So okay, so I didn't know that brides sometimes will request, "Hey, could we come in really early because of?" And some venues are providing that, they're allowing that,
They do.
Yeah,
but there are amenities, there's staff there. It's almost like okay, got it. I didn't know that.
They usually charge some places will charge a flat fee for that. Some people will add it into their pricing.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, let's talk about pricing. You don't have to divulge numbers, but explain to me what fees, charges, things that should be expected when you're going into booking a venue. So, because obviously you have per plate, right? You have some places do possibly just the venue itself, or like what charges should somebody expect when they walk into a venue?
Like I said, we keep everything very simple. We do our per person price.
Okay.
The only additionals that will be added in is things that you add into it. So if you're adding the ceremony, if you're adding any enhancements, if you're adding the ice sculpture, your name's on the wall, things like that. If not, it's your per person price, 22% gratuity, 6.625 New Jersey sales tax, and then the only separate fee is a service fee that we do, and that gets broken down to your valet parking, your bridal attendant, your maitre d', your event managers, your restroom attendants, your coat check, all of that, and that's it.
Now, when you present this, is it in a total price? So in other words, when you invoice this, this is all listed out for them, or is it built into one price all together?
When I sit with the couples, I usually like to give them a price with the 22 and the 6.625 already included for them, which a lot of couples really like, because then mentally they could just take that number times it by how many people they're having to give them like a base price of what they're going to be spending. And then I always tell them then this service fee is a separate fee.
Right.
So this is separate fee because it doesn't get broken down per person. It's just separate fee on top of your total.
Right. Based on what they actually need the day.
Correct.
Because they may not need valet. They may not need these certain things. There are some things that are going to vary.
And if they try to take it out, I'm very honest and tell them why they should keep it. Some mitzvahs do like to take it out.
Yeah.
And then I tell them, the valet, especially the ones we have, because we've worked with them for so long, they keep outside organized. So they keep the flow going. So this way cars aren't lined up on 36. Cars aren't just waiting in front of the building. If kids are getting dropped off, they make sure that those cars stop. The kids are going. So they keep the outside organized. And that's why I do think that they shouldn't keep it in there.
What's another example? So you said valet. Anything else that you like try? They say, "Oh, we're not going to do that." And you're like, "Okay, you
restroom attendants."
Okay.
Your guests walk into the restroom.
Okay.
What if there's paper towels all over the floor?
Yeah.
I can't constantly be in there checking because I have to check
What
with
if
you.
Here's one. What if somebody vomits because they're too drunk?
There you go, which I've had.
You know what's crazy?
I've had that a few times.
I go into a restaurant sometimes and I see a beautiful restroom and it changes my whole perception of the place. I don't know why. They invested. I'm sorry, this is maybe out of pocket.
I know. No, I have a lot of couples, especially when the moms come with them. They always want to check out their bathrooms. Always.
Yeah. I don't want it to look like a prison, a prison restaurant.
And I get that. I get that.
Why is this floor wet? I'm serious. But what I just one of my biggest things is look, let's be honest, especially if it's a young couple and they're party couple, people lose track of what they're drinking, and then there's always going to be that one person that is going to go to the bathroom, and sometimes they don't make it to the bathroom on time. Things like that happen. An attendant's job is to, hey, We have to clean this up. I have to get custodial staff to come in here and mop this up while still attending to everybody else there. These are things, again, that quite frankly, a lot of people just don't know to ask or don't know because they don't experience it. The funny thing is that it's the what if moments that can actually make or break your wedding.
Security.
We
provide security.
Big one.
Any fights?
So we don't really have fights.
Okay.
We had one time, but it was like by the front door, and it was like very, very minimal.
Oh, so
but
it wasn't like
it's
bop,
more
bop, bop,
of
pow,
yeah,
kapow.
no,
No,
and
that's
it's
common.
more. It was like more verbal.
Okay.
But without security, it's more of he is great, especially with like the older guests.
Mm-hmm.
So he is great in situations. God forbid, we've had grandma fall in the bathroom, get stuck in the bathroom stall. Yeah. We've had a guy literally standing at the ballroom having a conversation with somebody, all of a sudden just fall back and crack his head on the floor. You're like, what just happened? Like, yeah. We've had people trip. We've had, obviously, you guys know, being DJs, people break glasses on the dance floor.
Okay, I was thinking about that. I was going to say it. All right, you beat me to it.
So that's what our security
Stand
is.
that.
And he has helped in many, many situations.
Yeah.
You know, things that
breaking
people
on
don't
the-
think about that could actually happen at a wedding.
The breaking glass on the dance floor,
Well,
I can't.
Well,
That just...
Well, unfortunately, it also
it's-
comes to the territory of, in our situation, where you have
affects
it affects us, but it's also when the excitement is rising, people don't want to put their drinks down.
No.
They
No.
don't.
Do you guys have a lot of venues that don't allow drinks on the dance floor?
Not so many that mandate it.
Okay.
They don't mandate
or
it.
enforce it, even.
Right.
It could be a... That's a great point.
Okay, the ones that usually do it are when they just have their dance floor done.
Okay.
So like they're like, no drinking on the dance floor, and I'm like, okay, guy, but there's
Who's
gonna
there's
enforce that?
150 people here.
You can make the announcement, but
Yeah.
nobody's listening to you.
Well, okay, look, I like to dance. I've always liked to dance. I don't like to dance with a drink in my hand because especially when Spanish music comes on, that's my culture. It's my culture, but it's my culture.
He's
It
Puerto
is. It's
Rican.
like, but if you want to salsa, bachata, if you want,
Yeah.
it requires both hands, and you want to do that. So it's not like you really bring your drinks on the dance floor
Yeah.
if you're a dancer. You know who brings their drinks on the dance floor?
Bar crowds.
Bar crowds. The guys
Got
who
it.
just want to sing, don't dance that hard, and all of a sudden,
What's the drop? What's the drop? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think of like Dropkick Murphys, like that.
Yeah.
Like, I just think of like Irish guys are like, yeah, TMY.
that tends
like,
to happen, but it's not always a result of just bad guests or sloppy
correct.
guests.
No,
it can just
Just happens.
naturally happen. So I get it. Because obviously, when their glass breaks, we have to kind of create a small perimeter.
I know.
You know, tell the maitre d'
I
and the
know.
staff like, "Hey, we have broken glass. We need it swept up." You know, we
little
help facilitate it as much
Yeah.
as we can. But kind of telling guests like you can't bring your drinks to the dance
hard
floor.
to say.
It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard because it's a buzzkill. And
Yeah.
people are like,
And the
"This loser."
the
And I'm like, "Dude, it ain't
experience.
me. I didn't do it."
The only
You
time
know?
I enforce that is if we're on our fifth broken glass on the dance floor.
That's
then
a
it's like, all
different
right,
story.
guys.
Then it's
enough
like,
is
all right,
enough.
guys.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
it's you guys.
Yeah, like enough is enough. Like, no
I agree with
drinks
you
on the
1,000%.
dance floor.
At that point, I'd be like, okay, guys,
Yeah.
just stop because the party we can't create any energy that way.
There was only one event in the last year I could actually remember we had more than 3 broken glasses. And even after 2, I'm usually like, one is usually a genuine mistake.
Yeah.
And then the second one is usually towards the end of the night where there's that one person that's just getting rowdy and they don't know how rowdy they're getting and they just drop it. But then after a while, you're like, this is becoming a drunken stupor now. Now it's becoming a problem. Then as a DJ, my job is to possibly slow down the energy.
Yeah.
And that sucks if you're at the very end of the night where it's like their expectations balls to the wall
Yeah.
because you have the younger crowd because all grandma and grandpa's friends are leaving
Or sleeping.
sleeping, right? They're
Sorry.
gone, and then all the young people just want to party. So it's hard to do that, but it is our job. It really is on our behalf. If you're starting to see that glasses are getting a little
Safety
nuts,
first.
it's actually our job to coordinate with you guys. Like
Okay.
maybe you might want to shut down the bar for a minute, or maybe you want to tell them like ease up on hard liquor, like whatever they can do on their behalf. And our job is to slow down the energy. Hey, do a slow dance. Call out dessert, like whatever we could do,
Yeah.
like to aid each other. That's on us to work as a team. Going back to one of our first conversations, which vendor venue relationships are very important. I
agree.
I've had those issues,
And
you
I
know?
don't understand why some venues give vendors a very hard time.
I can.
I've heard a lot of stories. I I've heard a lot of
I have
stories.
the
Listen,
answer.
there are maybe some vendors that do piss me off once in a while. Like,
But
just
they-
when I'm asking you to use a certain door, just use that door.
Yes.
You know, when I'm telling you don't use the side doors, don't use the side door. There's a reason.
It's complete disrespect at that point.
Yeah,
Then when they're just.
but other than
not
that, like
listening to you.
we're all here for the same reason.
Yeah.
We're all here to make sure that the bride and groom have the best night of their life.
Yeah.
So let's work together. Let's
Thank
do what we
you.
got to do, and that's
Yeah.
it. But I hear horror stories. Like
Yes.
some vendors will tell me like other venues and what they have to deal with, and I'm just like, I don't understand why.
Simplicity, lack of, or it's lack of communication, or the lack of motivation to have communication. So in other words,
That's
like,
more important.
okay, if I walk into a venue and I go ask for a maitre d' and they're nowhere to be found, and I have X amount of time to get in, I'll load in and do whatever else. If the maitre d' or whoever's responsible for working with me is an hour into doing whatever and they don't speak to me, and they're like, "Oh, you're supposed to be over there," or "This is supposed to be over here," and I'm like,
That's the venue's fault.
I'm like, dude, like, I have no problem working with you, but communication's key with me.
Yeah.
If you knew you were going to be here, where was somebody coordinating with me? Especially the ones that piss me off the most are the ones with the radios, because I know you can communicate. I know you can.
You're good at communicating. You got
I
a
know-
walkie-talkie
I know.
for that. You can talk to me.
You're
Yeah.
walking around like Secret Service, and then tell them, "Hey, the DJ's looking for you." Don't ignore the DJ's looking for you. Also, we're big on communicating. Hey, we're bringing this amount of equipment. We need this amount of space. We need this amount of expectations. Where I think venues fall flat, especially the bigger ones, specifically the multi-day ones, they don't communicate that with the people in charge of the day.
Gotcha.
Right. So maitre d's will like walk in like, you only have 5 feet of space. I'm like, dude, 3 weeks ago we sent over our timeline, letting you know, hey, we're bringing sparks, we're bringing
Yep.
this, we need this amount of stuff.
Yep.
And then they walk in, I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, I'm like, that's
It's
not
it's-
good.
it's like a factor
It's
that-
not good.
or
and then I
my-
have to explain to the client, like, oh, we can't do that now because the venue restricted us.
Oh wow.
Like, these are stories that happen.
I have one where, and there was no like she clearly actually they had a wedding in the evening. I just forgot. I was doing a wedding from like 12 to 4, whatever. It was like an early morning wedding early day wedding type of thing, and I said, okay, so this is typically the run of show. She goes, no, that's not how it's going to go. I said, oh, okay, fine. Because I want to be like, again, team player. Like I have
Yeah.
my timeline, but at the end of the day, if it's again, your kitchen doesn't work with your kitchen. Let me move stuff around. I'm like,
Yeah.
I want to work with you guys because you have much more of you have to maintain a certain fixed schedule program because it's food, right? It's got to stay hot, whatever. So I'm like, I'll work with you guys. Not a problem. Let me just move things around. She was very not even able to inch on things to the point where even if I had certain formalities around dinner that really didn't
yeah.
affect
Affect
her,
her.
she wanted those formalities out there because that's the way they always do things. So I was like, I said, our bride and groom, they came with a certain expectation to do it this way
Yeah.
for this because they saw us perform, yada, yada. She's like, all right, whatever, I'll try to figure it out. So right off the bat, I know doesn't want to work with me. The thing that really frustrated me was that cake, she wanted not an hour and a half before, because I know that's pretty common before the end of the wedding, but like 2 hours after, because they had a wedding following and they needed to like strike the kitchen or clear it up and everything like that. She said, we have to do cake right after main course. And I said, what? And even the photographer was like, this is weird. And I said, it's because they have a wedding after and they need to prepare their kitchen, something like that. And it really frustrated me because I'm saying, guys, at the end of the day, like, I understand you have a system and you want to, like, you need to get it early, but like, it's the bride and groom, like, it's their day.
Yeah.
And they wanted to dance, and now there's too many formalities striked up. But like, I know it's like, aren't you? You're missing the point of what we're doing here, what we're
Yes.
trying to do for.
Well,
And
let me cut you off and ask a direct question. Do you think venues that do that are primarily because they're more fixated on knowing that after all major formalities are done, they're going to get guests out of their venue faster, which might turn the room faster for their staff?
That's a very good theory.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Because another thing I have to ask, our majority of our staff are hourly workers, yes?
Yes.
So if they have to pay them hourly for an additional hour, why would they do that if they're able to get all of their stuff done, clear plates, move dessert around, and then the last hour they can start cleanup before the event ends?
See, I let them clean like clear the tables. And especially like my servers will know, like if they start clearing water glasses, I'll question them depending on what time, because they're not to touch their water glasses until 15 minutes prior.
Well, it's sobriety too.
So
It helps.
yeah. And I'm like, guys, I was like, you do not touch your water. But if they're doing it earlier, they're like, the table left. I'll be like, okay, that's fine, because I
Fine.
make sure
Okay.
they stay on their tables.
Okay.
But they're not allowed to touch anything else in that room. They're not allowed to stack a chair until the wedding is paying until 12 o'clock. They're not allowed to stack a chair until 12 o'clock.
Right.
Because I don't want anybody questioning, why did you start clearing the stuff
Right.
in my
That's what
Right.
she was
Yeah.
getting at, and they had a wedding after, which made me feel very
Yeah.
like they don't care about this bride and groom.
It's,
and
it's
don't like
hard.
that.
Well, no, it's hard because, look, when you're talking about business, it's advantageous to do more than one
course.
event.
Of course.
I think we can all agree with that. You know, you can make more money if you could do 2 weddings versus 1 in a day. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer. With that said, to what cost to the experience of your client are you willing to push? And I think that's what he's going
Yeah.
by. Because
Right.
when venues tell me that they're not willing to budge or move certain things around, it tells me that their system is not for the benefit of the client.
No, they don't care. It's
for
for the money.
them.
Yeah.
Right. That's a big red flag for me.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why it's a red flag is I can't tell the client that
No.
when they've already booked the
it's
venue.
their wedding day. That's it.
Well, no, but again,
like,
this is why I have the gripe with the venues.
Mm-hmm.
And it's true. You guys are the first ones they look for.
Yeah.
Why? Because you can't call other vendors without a date and a place.
Very true.
Typically.
Yep. Yeah.
Right? The problem I have is a lot of places that have the advantage of showcasing this beautiful place with all these gardens, all these other things. They omit certain truths or certain things that are there that don't benefit the couple.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the ones that we have the hardest time working with. I've told you all the time, Vicky, we're doing parent dances later. You're like, oh, okay. Well, I just have salad coming out at 7:30. I'm like,
Yeah.
cool. That's
all it
that
takes.
has
Yeah.
nothing
To do
so,
with like,
So the
yeah.
point I'm trying to make is like when we do our timelines, it is not intrusive on your staff.
That's it.
For example, we still do toasts early. Why? I know that toasts and champagne glasses are out on the table.
Right.
But if I say, Vicky, parent speeches are going to be at the back end of dinner with the parent dances, the only question they usually get is, do they need champagne and flutes out? I go, no, they don't care. They're like, cool, I'm going to clear them after the first toasts. Awesome.
Yeah.
Why? Because guess what? Dad's on bourbon. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. He does not care. And if he's not an alcoholic, like most of the people we've party with, no, they might have water. They might have something. It has nothing
Yeah.
to do with what they're drinking. Champagne is obviously a representation of class. It is traditional, but it is not the end all be all to give a toast.
You're right.
All right. So as long as the toasts have the champagne and maybe you're just done with 2, maybe the parents are not speaking, then why does it matter? If it doesn't affect the kitchen, why are you fighting me on it? These are things that we've experienced, not with you guys,
No.
which is why I get giddy when I talk about the Gramercy. Matter of fact, we actually already have couples coming in. Ashley and James will be on the podcast. They were on
Yeah.
November at the Gramercy.
Yeah.
Jessica and Joe.
that wouldn't that have
in
been
June.
sick if we had
All of them come in. Yeah, I mean,
Vicky,
See,
like,
this is like some couples I love
yeah,
drinking
Right?
with.
yeah, but
Yeah.
these are things that that they're coming in to talk about, and I have another client coming in for the Gramercy from you guys, and I get giddy when I talk about the Gramercy. Number one, we're right down the road; we're less than 30 minutes away. I got married there for obvious reasons, and I know that we're gonna have a great experience when we work with you guys. If you guys don't know about the Gramercy at Lakeside Manor, I really think you guys should take a look at them. Speak with Dean, speak with Victoria. They are amazing at what they do.
Aaron,
Hazlet is Hazlet. Yes,
Hazlet, yeah.
Hazlet. I always forget on 36.
It's a little deceiving. You drive by it,
Yep.
it looks like my mom even said it to me. My mom drove by it multiple times, and then right before we got married, she wanted to come and take a look at it, and she was like, she walked in and she was like,
it's gorgeous.
"Wow, wow, okay, that's it. I like to give the wow factor."
Yeah, but that's the thing. I always say, step inside,
Yeah.
go talk to you guys, because they're amazing what they do. I'm not just saying this. The food is impeccable. Specifically, the cocktail hour. My best friend had to cut his speech short because he had stomach pains from eating too much at the cocktail hour. That's not.
Ukoma!
That's literally not a joke. He actually told me. He goes, you hear him in the speech. He's kind of like this, like he's breathing heavy because he had so much of the mac and cheese bar and everything else.
That
we
place
had.
was so good.
It was great.
Aaron, we're getting married at the Gramercy.
I want to add or give you the opportunity to add other pieces of advice or things that you think are important for couples. Was there anything, being a bride, working at the Gramercy, expectations in regards to booking a venue. What other piece of advice you want to throw at couples while you're still on here?
Stop overthinking things. Stop overthinking things for other people. So that's the one thing I love when I sit with them. I'm like, guys, this is your wedding.
Okay.
Because they think too much
About
other people when I'm like, this is your day. You want to do what you want to do. And especially when they're thinking of days of the week. Oh, well, it's a Thursday. And you're giving people enough notice. If you want to get married on a Thursday, you're paying for your wedding. This is your special day. Get married on a Thursday. You're giving people enough notice. You're sending out save the dates. You're sending out invitations months before. They can take off from work.
Yep.
Absolutely.
That's what I try to tell them. Because I want them to feel special, to know that it is their day.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. All this stuff is great, and we love to see your point of view too, because we've said a lot of things on our point of view and the expectations of how to operate a wedding and plan a party. Obviously, you guys are always typically first stop for venues. We are going to have other venues on here, but I knew you guys had to be first. I was like, I'm not having anybody else until I have the venue that I got married at come in and talk about it, because I speak both of the professional and the personal side. You guys really do an outstanding job. You, Dean, Nico, everybody there. Can't speak highly enough about them. This is my Jon Divine endorsement. Get married at the Gramercy at Lakeside Manor,
Stamp of
people.
approval.
You're going to absolutely love it. Trust me. It's fantastic. Yeah. Yeah. So again, Victoria, if there's, where can they find
Collia-Bowman.
Where can they find you on Instagram, like the Gramercy's tagline, stuff like that? Where can they follow the Gramercy?
At Gramercy NJ.
Fantastic. Is there anything else you want to share?
No, not really.
There's
so much, but that's for another day.
Yeah. Well,
That's for the next
turn the
podcast.
yeah, exactly.
we're going to have you
exactly.
come back on here. And I know Dean's like, oh, it's not for me. I'm going to get Dean on this podcast. I don't know how I'm going to do it.
Well, because if you get Dean on, he's never going to shut up. It's going to be like 4 days later. You're going to still sitting here talking.
That's-
Oh, perfect.
That's fine with me.
Plenty of content. Plenty of
That's
yeah.
fine. Him and I, me and Dean, there are
Yeah, unless
times,
there's a Ranger game on, then he's got to go.
Fine.
that we'll
fine,
put in the
fine,
background.
football, yeah.
I mean, me and Dean have literally started talking about our kids in the kitchen while the staff is setting up, and I'm like, dude, I got to go to work. But I want to thank you for coming out here.
Thank you for having me.
It was such a
I appreciate it. This was awesome.
Yeah, we're going to look at this camera, and we're going to basically say, thank you guys for watching Missed Conversations. I'm Jon Divine,
I'm Patrick Soldi.
and that's Victoria
Collia-Bowman.
at the Gramercy. Hope you guys enjoy the episode. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Yeah!
That was awesome.